Remember the 3 lanes: radical, establishment, outsider. I probably should have done that in reverse. You get the point. If you're watching me on YouTube, would have been different if it was the other way. So the New York Times has made their presidential endorsements. By the way, can I just say, newspapers should not be in the endorsement business. I get it. It's the opinion and the editorial boards that do it. Just stay out of it. If you're doing journalism, dude, I know it's been a decades-long thing. Why are we involved in this at all? Seriously, nobody cares what the editorial board of the New York Times thinks, or any other newspaper for that matter. I'm sorry. People make their own decisions. I agree. Yeah, right? Get out of the bit. What's the point? Yeah. Just stay out of it. I mean, you're supposed to be doing journalism. Like, who thought this was a good idea? But here's a tweet from the New York Times. And I want to tell you again, as we always do on this show, what's really going on behind the scenes with this New York Times editorial board endorsement. Let me read the tweet at New York Times. The editorial board's decision to back not one, but 2 candidates is a significant break with convention. One meant to address the realist and radical models being presented to voters by the 2020 Democratic field, the editorial says. Okay.
Oh, come on, dude.
Yeah, I know. I can sense in your groan the frustration, because if you're going to get in this stupid business of endorsing candidates as a journalism outfit, or in the New York Times, even as a fake journalism outlet, then the whole idea of an endorsement, Joe, call me crazy here, is to pick one. I'm just throwing that out there. Here's what I'm going to do. I have a bunch of friends who are running for office in Congress and everything like that. If they were running against each other and it's a 2-person, I'm going to endorse both of them. I endorse Joey Bag of Donuts and Bobby Bag of Donuts in the Florida 18th District. They're both great candidates. What's the point of an endorsement then?
Bingo.
One. That looked kind of weird on camera. Just pick one. Make a decision. Now, why are they picking 2? Again, as always, I will give you the backstory about what they're really doing. The New York Times, through their fake news and Russian collusion hoaxes and conspiracy theorist promotions and their nonsense, they really, really hate Donald Trump. A lot. That is not, of course, breaking news. So the way to damage Donald Trump is to get rid of what the New York Times editorial board thinks are the weakest candidates in the field to create a better matchup for Donald Trump. They believe at this point that the best matchup for Donald Trump clearly is Elizabeth Warren. So you may be saying, well, if the New York Times endorsed Elizabeth Warren, I'm sorry, I didn't tell you who they endorsed. Forgive me. Talk about burying the lead. Didn't say that in the tweet. They endorsed Elizabeth Warren and Amy Klobuchar. Why would they do that? Well, they believe clearly Warren has the best shot. I disagree with that. But in order to do some maximum damage on the Democrat side, to get rid of people they think don't have a shot, they created this double endorsement system. And how does that work? Well, to understand how that works, the New York Times clearly has adopted the Dan Bongino three-lane theory on how elections work. In every election cycle, just about, at the presidential level, you will see 3 lanes develop. You will see an establishment lane, an ideological lane, a very right-leaning or very left-leaning person, like a Tea Party person versus a socialist. You get it? So an establishment pick, like a Mitt Romney type, an ideological candidate, and you'll pretty much always see an outsider as well. The list goes on and on. Steve Forbes, Herman Cain, Donald Trump. We've seen these candidates over and over. Those 3 lanes are typically, the people who lead those lanes, if they're authentic, can win an election. The problem the Democrats are having right now is the people at the top of those lanes are disastrous and will likely lose to Donald Trump. Joe Biden is the head of the establishment lane. Biden cannot get out of his own way, folks. I'm not going to do a montage of Biden's faux pas. The show would be 2 hours long. Biden doesn't even know what state he's in. He's a complete disaster. He is just falling apart on the campaign trail. Enough said. So establishment lane, big trouble for the New York Times that wants Trump defeated. Get it? The radical lane, being led by who right now? Bernie Sanders, who's surging in the polls.
Bernie Sanders, yeah.
Bernie will, ladies and gentlemen, it will be a disaster in the general election. America is not a socialist country. Bernie Sanders is beyond radical. He is a communist. This guy is a total train wreck. Even the New York Times sees this guy as trouble. They see Warren, even though she's espousing some of the same policies, as being more of a pragmatist. And the New York Times with a wink, I'm not saying that. This is what they're thinking. I know it. They think she's more of a pragmatist. And when she gets to the general election, she's going to say, yeah, all that stuff I said, like Bernie in the primary, I didn't really mean any of that. Let's go back to being kind of normal Elizabeth Warren, air quotes. You get what I'm saying? So they need to knock Bernie off the radical post. The outsider lane right now is occupied by Buttigieg, who just has no experience, and the experience he has as the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, is disastrous. He'll get crushed too. So how does that tie into the story about the New York Times strangely endorsing two candidates? They want Warren, so that's easy enough. They endorse Warren because they want her. They think she can win. Simple. But why endorse Klobuchar too? What lane is Amy Klobuchar supposedly in? Think this one through. That's right, the establishment safe pick lane. Klobuchar is thought to be a moderate. She's not. She's a hard leftist too, but whatever. The media is painting her as a moderate. You know, this rural kind of outdoorsy senator who just has a feel for the average working person. So, if the New York Times endorses Klobuchar too, knowing she has what chance of winning? 0. Unless she finishes top 3 in Iowa. She's going to be out soon too. Why would they do that? Because they want to sweep Biden out of there. And they feel like if they boost Klobuchar in the establishment lane, remember the 3 lanes, radical, establishment, outsider. I probably should have done that in reverse. You get the point. If you're watching me on YouTube, would have been different if it was the other way. Radical, establishment, outsider. The way to damage Biden is to split the establishment vote. And unfortunately right now, there's nobody really doing that in the early primary states. The establishment lane is almost solely occupied. Again, with the Comey story. This is an enigma and a mystery, but it's not that hard to follow. The socialist vote is being split. Warren and Sanders. Big trouble for both of them. You don't want the split vote. You want to consolidate your vote. A lot of these are plurality elections where you only need to have more votes than the next guy. You don't need a majority. If you split the vote, you're in a world of trouble. They need Biden to split the vote too. So they're trying to boost Klobuchar by doing this stupid double endorsement to give Klobuchar a little bit of a head of steam to hopefully pull enough votes away from Biden that Warren can slide ahead in Iowa with like 21.1% of the vote. Make sense?
You just heard The Dan Bongino Show. You can also get Dan's podcasts on iTunes or SoundCloud. And follow Dan on Twitter 24/7 @DBongino.